What is going on, FitFam? Just got to the gym and I am back now, home in Canada after 6 weeks of traveling around in Europe. Very fun, but I'm also so ready to get back into my fitness routine. So this week, I've been slowly getting back to tracking macros, being really consistent with my workouts, and I already see that I'm leaning out the fluff that I gained while I was in Europe. And today is leg day 2 of the week, and it's gonna be a good one. We've got some hip thrusts, some split squats, some sumo squats. I'm gonna take you through all of it and explain everything that I'm doing, give you form tips, and hopefully you will also do this workout with me and get a great gluten leg pump. Let's get into it. All right, ladies, so just getting the barbell set up here because we're going to be starting off the very first exercise with some 1.5 barbell hip thrusts, one of my favorite hip thrust variations. So I've recently changed my style of training. I'm actually not doing glute activation anymore with the band. Instead, I'm just focusing on doing 2 warm-up sets of the exercise that I'm going to be doing, because that is actually a better way to really stimulate the muscle fibers and to really get them warmed up so that you can actually push yourself and really lift heavy, much more so than kind of just like kicking your legs around with a band. So I'm going to test this out for a little bit and see which way of warming up I enjoy. But right now I'm just going to do 2 warm-up sets of 1.5 hip thrusts for about 8 reps each, and starting off with just 1 45-pound plate on each side, and then I'm going to go put a heavier amount of weight for the second warm-up set, and then we're going to get into the actual working sets. Okay, so as far as the actual hip thrust setup, it is a little bit of a pain to get set up for this exercise. I know there's a lot of steps involved, but trust me, it's definitely worth it because there's no other exercise that's going to grow and pump your glutes like the hip thrusts. So you want to have a bench or a box, some sort of platform where your upper back is going to be against it. You don't want it to be too high. You want to be able to reach your ankles with your fingertips. So that's why you see me doing that as well, because I want to make sure that my legs are close enough and not too far out in front of my body. And then of course I recommend getting a thick barbell pad and using that as a cushion for your hip bone, because otherwise the bar is going to dig into your hip bone, which you do not want. And then I'm going for 8 reps here of 1.5. So 1 full rep, and then once I complete the 1 full range of motion, we're going to do 1 little mini half rep, and then 1 full rep with 1 mini half rep is 1 rep. So getting in that extra half rep is really just going to make your glutes absolutely pumped and on fire. And every single set I did here, I actually kept going up in weight. And this is really important because I felt like I still had more in me to give. So this is really important because you want to make sure that you are always getting as strong as you possibly can, and you are always pushing yourself to your max. So if you do an exercise and it didn't really feel that hard, and you felt like with the weight you were using and the reps you were doing that maybe you could have still done another 3, 5 or more reps, then that probably means you're not pushing yourself hard enough, and that means that you're not going to get as good results as you actually want. So you always want to be aware of that and thinking to yourself, am I really giving everything I got here? And then if you think you can do more weight, do more weight, or you can always do more reps. You can add in pulses, you can add in more time under tension where you're squeezing and contracting the muscle. But either way, you want to make sure that you are really giving everything you got to get the best results. Okay, moving on to everybody's least favorite exercise, but one that we got to do anyways, is Bulgarian Split Squats. So for this exercise, I'm going to be using my Versa grips, which I've had for a few months now. Absolute game changer with holding heavy dumbbells or holding a heavy barbell, because sometimes your wrists are going to get more overloaded with weight than your legs would. So this is where using the Versa grips really come in handy, so that you can actually hold more weight and overload your legs and glutes more without your wrists giving out. So I really recommend them for that. So for the Bulgarian split squats, I absolutely annihilated my legs here. I started off with 3 regular working sets. I'm holding 30-pound dumbbell in each hand, and I did 10 reps on each leg, but I was aiming for about anywhere between 10 to 12. And then on the very last set, I did 1 final extra set where I immediately dropped the weight and went into a body weight, as many reps as possible final set, just to really destroy my legs. So this is a really tough exercise, and honestly, even doing it just body weight is still very challenging because you are isolating your legs one at a time and going through such an intense range of motion. But definitely definitely, you can start with body weight and then slowly move up and holding heavier and heavier dumbbells. So a couple form tips with this one. I have found what makes it work really, really well, and not only really hits your quads, so the front of your legs, but also really hits your glutes and right underneath your booty, which is a spot that we all want to be hitting. You don't take such a far step forward because you want to have your foot up on the bench behind you, and then you want to be able to bring that knee down to the ground, which means that you can't be standing too far forward, otherwise that back knee wouldn't be able to touch the ground. So this is really the key thing you want to be thinking about with this exercise, is getting that back knee to the ground and pushing up through your front heel. So all the way down, push up through the front heel. And another little tip is to kind of lean your torso forward. I find that that also helps to get a little bit more engagement in the glutes and a little bit less on your quads. So 10 to 12 reps for 3 sets with dumbbells here. And then if you want to be extra crazy like me, you can also throw in one final set of bodyweight Bulgarian split squats for as many reps as you can. All right, moving on to one of my all-time favorite exercises, and that is a sumo dumbbell squat. And this is also a very beginner-friendly exercise. If you're a little bit intimidated by some of these heavier barbell exercises, definitely do this one. You just take one heavy dumbbell, hold it between your hands, and then you're going to take a fairly wide leg stance, which is why it's called sumo. Have your toes pointed out a little bit, and then you're going to be sinking down into a squat, leaning your torso forward, which we now know when you do that, that really activates the back of your legs very, very nicely. So this is just such a good exercise. Your glutes and legs are absolutely screaming by the end. And I did a little bit of a twist to this exercise. So what I was doing is the very first rep, I would go down and then I would stay in that bottom position for a full 5 seconds, just holding the pose. And at first it kind of feels like, all right, why am I doing this? It's not such a big deal. But then by the time you go through all your other reps, your legs are going to be screaming because you actually went ahead and did that little bit of extra time under tension. So again, this is what I'm talking about, where you can overload your muscles, not just always by going heavier or doing more reps. You can also just be squeezing and contracting the muscles for a little bit longer by adding in pauses like that. So after the first rep and 5-second hold, you're going to go for 10 to 12 reps of these dumbbell sumo squats. All right, so once again, slapping on these Versa grips because we are going to do some dumbbell RDLs, Romanian deadlifts, which is one of my other all-time favorite exercises. This is really going to hit your hamstrings, the back of your legs, and also work your glutes. So this is a tricky one to get the form dead right, but it makes a huge difference when you really get it. So you want to have this soft bend in your knee, and then you want to be thinking that your glutes are going back towards the wall. Imagine there's a rope around your hips pulling you back towards the wall, and that is actually how you're lowering down. So nothing else is moving other than you are hinging at your hips are pushing back towards the wall, and you have that soft bend in your knees. And as you can see, you don't actually need to go all the way up to the top. You actually kind of want to keep the contraction the entire time. So I'm not standing straight up when I'm done the rep. I'm going up almost all the way and then once again lowering down. And this is an exercise I found that using muscle-mind connection makes a huge difference. So when you actually really think about your glutes, you imagine your glutes while you're doing this exercise, you're going to feel them so much more. So you're going to go for 12 to 15 reps of 3 sets on these dumbbell RDLs. All right, finishing off with this very last exercise, we are going to be doing this angled leg press. So this is kind of a less intense version of the more heavy duty leg press, but I find that it kind of isolates different parts of the glutes and legs nicely since you're at a different angle. So it's a really good way to finish off a workout. So I put my feet fairly high up on the platform, and then you want to use a decent bit of weight. I was using 160 pounds here, so your legs are really going to feel it. And then you're just pushing through those heels, moving slowly up and down, and really squeezing and engaging your glute and leg muscles the whole time. And I'm going for 10 to 12 reps for 3 sets. All right, fam, and then I'm just going to finish off with a quick lower body stretching session because you'll be very sorry if you don't. So I figured I'm going to stretch anyways, might as well show you what I'm doing. So I usually always start off with a butterfly position and just like to hold it for a good 15 to 30 seconds, deep breathing. And then I move into pigeon, which is probably the best stretch you can do for your lower body. It really just releases so much tension in your hips and your legs and your glutes. And I always like to start in this more upright position with my torso upright, and then I eventually lower down and bring my forearms to the ground and lower my chest closer to the floor so I can get an even deeper stretch. And then I'm going to move onto my back and pull my leg to my chest with my knee bent. I actually don't know what this is called, but it gives you a really nice deep glute stretch. And then this is a new stretch that I have been doing, which looks kind of funny, but it feels really, really good, which is kind of like a yogi or a goddess squat, where you put your legs at a really wide stance and then squat down as low as you can and actually push your forearms against your knees and place your hands on the ground and really kind of lean forward, lean your knees into your arms and feel that deep stretch in your abductors. It feels so freaking good. I could just hang out there all day. And then to finish off, I'm just going to do some regular forward fold stretching, so where my legs are straight and bending over, trying to reach my toes. And then I go into a more wide leg stance so I can hit slightly different parts of the legs. And then to finish off, I'm just going to quickly bend one knee to the side and then repeat on the other leg. And that is that. All right, fam, that is the end of the session. That is one of the hardest leg days I have done in a while, what with being on vacation and all, but it felt super good. I feel great now, nice and stretched out. Always make sure to stretch for a good 10 minutes afterwards. So hope you enjoyed this workout and that you got a nice pump on. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.